Alright, welcome to another unboxing, and today we're going to be talking about this guy. This is the Maverick Quantum XT Flux, and this is a brand new brand here on the channel, and one that I'm very much looking forward to working with in the long term. It is of course powered by HPI Racing. This is kind of a sister company to HPI, and it kind of focuses more on the entry level and more budget friendly RCs. So without further ado, we're going to get into this guy, find out what it comes with, check out some of its features, and then of course we'll take it out for a spin and see how it performs. Right, now that we've got the car out of the box and all its contents, let's go through and find out exactly what you get with this guy. There is a little heatsink that they provide in the bag. I presume that, you know, if the car's getting a little bit warm, or if you're running it a bit hard, or perhaps if this is more useful on a 3S LiPo battery, because this is 3S capable, you clip that onto the motor. It helps to dissipate the heat and hopefully keep the motor at safe temperatures. There is some remnants of a sticker sheet, so there's a couple of stickers in there. There's also an antenna tube which you can install to keep the antenna of the receiver upright. And then of course there is a little plastic tool. This should help you put the wheels on and off in case you need to do that. Interesting that it's plastic though. I was kind of hoping that that would be aluminium or steel or something. And then of course we have the all-important manual. Now the manual is quite basic, and it does go through some of the basic instructions, such as how to turn the car on, where to install the batteries, all that type of thing. And that's pretty much all I have with this manual. There's no... Is there an exploded view in here? No. It basically just goes through how to steer the car, how to operate the radio, that type of thing. Yeah, no exploded view or anything like that. However, if you do go on the HPI website, you can click on the Maverick link, and it will take you to that website where you'll see all the spare parts, and there's exploded views and all that sort of thing online. So it's a basic quick start guide, but there isn't an actual proper manual that I got with this truck. That being said, I will say that the bag was already open, and this was a review sample, so there's a chance that you may actually have a better manual in yours, but this is just how I got mine. The radio itself works on 4 AA's just there. Nice little drop down wheel. You've got some trimmings here, and then on the back you pop this guy open, you got your reverse switches, and then you have your channel 2 EPA. So this is for your throttle, so you can actually control how much reverse you have and how much forward you have. So when you pull the trigger, you know, by setting the speed here, the car will only go so fast. If you crank it all the way to max, obviously when you pull the trigger, it's going to go full speed. Essentially, that's how that works. Not a bad radio. It's an interesting look. A little bit blocky, but you know, it works. There's an on-off switch back here, and that's it. No antennas to break off or anything like that, so that's pretty cool. All right, so now we move on to the car itself. And I've got to say, these cars actually look really, really good. I like the styling. It has, you know, like a twin wheelie bar on the back here, which actually looks really good. And from all accounts, these have actually been holding up pretty well. There are a couple of durability sort of concerns that I have, because we do sell these cars at Metro Hobbies, and we have had customers come back with a couple of breakages. So I'm interested to see how this one's going to hold up in my hands. But I guess we'll find out in due time. The tyres themselves, kind of an interesting design. So interesting tread pattern. The rubber does feel kind of grippy, kind of soft. So I'm hoping that these actually grip pretty well on tarmac. Not sure how they're going to go on the gravel track that I normally drive on, but we'll soon see. Underneath, you can see it's an old plastic tub chassis. It does have a slightly raised center of gravity, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not too bad in this case at least, but you know, it does look pretty tough. And you can see, yeah, it's just a basic plastic chassis. The arms are actually, they look pretty solid. You know, they look like they're going to be strong enough, but yeah, I'll talk about the arms a little bit later on and kind of show you my concerns with those. Suspension wise, feels very over dampened. The suspension feels a little stiff. The oil in this is just a bit too thick. I'm kind of hoping that maybe HPI or Maverick will actually address that in the future, because they have some of these other cars in this sort of budget range where the suspension is real bouncy. There's, you know, the oil's too thin, But here they've kind of gone overboard and they've made it a bit too thick. So you can see that the truck has a bit of a hard time kind of rebounding. And that's just a telltale sign that either the springs are too soft, the springs are too soft, or the shock oil is just too thick. I'm going to go bank on the shock oil because it does feel very dampened, unfortunately. All right, taking the body pins off, we'll get into what's under the body in just a few short seconds. Get rid of those guys and we'll have a look at the body itself. So just a screen printed body, nothing too spectacular, average sort of thickness, not too flimsy, but yeah, hopefully it'll hold up okay. We'll see how that goes in the long run. And here is the guts of the car. So we got Velcro straps here for your batteries, which is, I think, a fantastic thing. This means that you can use, you know, a 3S hard case without any worries at all. And this is a standard size battery tray, so it's not restricting in its length. Is it adjustable at all? No, I can't see any adjustments here for these trays. So it doesn't look like you can make it, you know, slide this up and down. At least from what I can see, I can't see any adjustments there. And it's got this, you know, honeycomb design, which we've seen in a few other RCs to add it, you know, give it a little bit of added strength. We have an aluminium motor mount just back here. Your brushless motor, which I think, if I can't recall the size of it, and I can't really see it from here, I'll put it up on the screen because I will find out how big this motor is. Brushless ESC just here, running Dean's connectors or T-plug style connectors. We have a steering servo up the front with an aluminium heatsink, and then of course you got your receiver box just here. And that antenna tube, you'll need to put that to protect your antenna. Now, a trick with the antennas as well, even though this is very long and the antenna tube is obviously shorter than this, what I normally like to do is press this down. So if I have to open up the receiver box, I will. I'll actually push the antenna as far down as it'll go, and I'll make sure that I only leave enough that it doesn't protrude out of the body or anything like that. And because ideally the only thing that receives the signal is this bit here out of the antenna, which is the clear part of the actual antenna itself. So that's what receives the signal, that's what we need to protect. And then we'll put the tube on. There is there's a little screw rather, just there. It uses a 1.5 millimeter hex. You take that screw out, you slide your antenna tube in. You may even cut the antenna tube so it doesn't, you know, hit the body, and you can push that down accordingly. And then you just put that little screw back in, which kind of jams up against the antenna tube and stops it from popping out. So that's the idea with that. And I'm explaining all of this. I know a lot of you guys out there probably already know how to do this, but I'm explaining this because this is a beginner RC. There's going to be a lot of beginners out there that are going to be looking at this video and checking this out. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail with this just so that everybody knows how to do it. We do have plastic body chocks with aluminium little caps here. Actually, you know, the shocks don't look bad. I just don't think they've been tuned 100%. The front bumper actually has quite a bit of flex here, but it also has you know, quite a bit of resistance. It doesn't feel too flimsy. I'm hoping that this actually holds on to a couple of nose landings, and given that I'm a little bit rusty on my driving lately, I think I will be putting that to the test unwillingly, and we'll see exactly how that holds up. We do have adjustable body posts front and rear. This is not a bad thing. This means that you can adjust the body to, you know, suit the car. You can lower it a little bit, maybe raise it, or if you find a different body that will fit on here, you've got the option there to adjust it accordingly. Moving right along to the rear, of course, we've got our wing mount back here with the rear spoiler. Steel drive shafts front and rear. In fact, we have dog bones in the rear, and I can see we have CVDs in the front. And of course, this all has ball bearings going all the way through. What we're seeing here is the servo saver. So the servo is actually not turning, and the servo saver just bouncing the wheels back. Now the servo actually moved. So you can see that, here you go. So the servo is not moving, and the servo saver is doing its job. It's exactly what it should be doing. Probably could be a little bit tighter. I might look into that prior to running the car. Yeah, we'll see how that goes in the long run. What else can I tell you? So, durability concerns. Oh, and by the way, we do have a steel drive shaft going through the center of the car here as well. And of course, we've got plastic shock towers front and rear. And by the way, everything is hex hardware as far as I can see. So this is really good. Usually when we have Phillips heads and things like that, it kind of gives you the feeling of a more, you know, cheaper RC. This one at least has Phillips heads going all the way around, which is really nice to see. So, durability issues with this car. There are two main concerns with this car, and I don't know how it's going to hold up in my hands. I'm hoping that it lasts a little bit longer than some of the feedback that we've had from customers. One of the things that tends to happen is, of course, the A-arms themselves. The A-arms break only at one point, and that's where the hinge pin goes through the actual A-arm. The A-arm actually splits at the seam right at the end here, and I'll try and just kind of show you. Now, I've done a little bit of a dodgy on this one. You might see that it looks like I've tried to glue this back. I've been trying a few different glues to see if anything will stick, just as a temporary fix. I'm not expecting this to solve this problem. But as we can see here, there's only 2 points where the arms actually make contact with the hinge pin. If they were to widen these points and strengthen, where the arm actually holds onto the hinge pin, then it's less likely to actually split at the seam. That's what I would probably be looking at. I don't know how they're going to address this, but that's the only problem that we have with the A-arms. The A-arms don't seem to snap in the middle or anything like that. We don't have any issues of that nature. They just split right at the seam. And sometimes it doesn't take a lot for them to split. So that's one concern. The other concern are the rear axles on these cars. They tend to snap right where the cross pin goes. And you can sort of see that, the cross pin was once there. And this doesn't happen so much on impact. It's more to do with the torque of the brushless system. So we don't see this problem on the brushed cars. We only see this problem on the brushless cars, which means that the power seems to be a little bit too much for these axles. Now, with all this said and done, I will say that HPI, I did show these concerns to HPI prior to doing this unboxing, and they have told me that they've upgraded these components. I don't know specifically what they've done, but they said that apparently my car has the upgraded parts, and hopefully, we won't have these problems, and when I run the car, everything will be nice and sweet. So, I think I've pretty much covered everything that I need to cover on this car. It's a very basic setup. It's a cool looking car. The remote itself, I'm curious to use it. I don't know if these remotes, I really haven't had any sort of negative feedback on the remote. So, but then I haven't had any massive positive feedback either. So I'm curious to see how that's going to go. Everything else on the car seems to be holding up okay. We haven't had any diff issues as of yet. Bumpers seem to be holding up well. The rear spoiler mount and everything else, wheelie bars, tires seem to be good. The wheels don't seem to break. So we've only got a couple of little things here that are kind of worrying me. Everything else, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it performs. And that, I think, is pretty much where I'm going to leave it. I will leave a link in the video description for you guys to check this out in more detail. I'll have a link to the HPI or Maverick website, and also a link to Metro Hobbies where you can pick one of these up if you want to grab one for Christmas or for someone's birthday or for yourself, just to treat yourself because you had a good month at work or something like that. So that is it from me, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and keep a lookout because I'll have a running video on this guy very, very shortly.